Anita.
Great, thank you, Liao. It's, as I said, it's great to be here. And as I mentioned, I'm the Associate Director, and in that capacity, I work quite closely with all of our faculty in terms of the curriculum, and I'm also part of that faculty team and teach one of the 2 required core classes, which is going to be meeting its final session this Thursday. It's really exciting. It's the 10th week of the quarter, and so the incoming cohort 20 is wrapping up their first core class. But before I get into the curriculum, let's start with a bit more of the macro picture. And I want to invite folks to type questions into the chat box whenever you have them. Khyati will be monitoring it. We'll be taking a look at it. So don't feel like you've got to hold your questions. Anytime you've got them, put them in the chat box and we will respond in kind. So with that invitation, let's talk a little bit about the program broadly. And coming to this call, you may have already done a little bit of homework, so there may be some repetition here, but the Communication Leadership Program has been in existence at the University of Washington. We're actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this academic year, and the 2 decades have been one of growth for our program. It was certainly a program that was started by a very forward-thinking chair at the Department of Communication who believed that it was important for the department to have a professional graduate program that would be very responsive to the way that the communication field was changing so rapidly in the 90s. It's amazing to think back 20 years ago how different the landscape looked, and yet how some of the conversations are similar. But if you imagine 20 years ago, it's pre-social media, but it's beginning. The rise of the mobile telephone is becoming something that's going from just a phone to a smartphone. You have all kinds of disruptions happening to legacy media. And this program has really been designed to prepare professional communicators across sectors to enter in and perform at the highest possible level in the career path that they choose. And so we really pride ourselves in offering 2 degrees that speak to the condition of many professional communicators. The first is a Master of Communication in Digital Media, and that's our degree that is celebrating. It has been actually in existence for 20 years on campus. And then in 2013, we added a Master of Communication in Communities and Networks. And so those 2 degrees are the ones that are housed underneath our program's title, Communication Leadership. And we often get asked to talk a little bit about the distinction between the 2 degrees. And the way I like to look at it is both are degrees designed for professional communicators, and both are degrees that are designed to imagine that humans are at the center of communication. But we know that in today's day and age, no matter where we are in the world, the importance of understanding the digital landscape has never been more crucial. And so the MCDM, the Master of Communication in Digital Media, tends to attract students who understand human intention being at the center of digital media, but are interested in the way in which those platforms engage with the public, are designed to engage with the public, whether those be the kinds of interfaces that the web presents to its user base, or people who are interested in everything from the way that films and marketing are designed to grab attention of that potential user base, those customers, those constituents. The other side of that coin is the human dimension of communication in a digital sphere that attracts the student to the Master of Communication in Communities and Networks. This degree certainly revels and understands the paramount importance of understanding the digital landscape, but tends to attract students who are a bit more interested in the interpersonal aspects of that ecosystem, whether it has to do with identifying constituents in terms of how do you design technology to serve the public, how do you create strong communication practices within an organization, institution, company. What does it look like to think about the skill sets that will allow a professional communicator to connect intentionally with their colleagues, their constituents or customer bases. Essentially, it's a bit more of an emphasis on the interpersonal aspects of professional communication, but we see these 2 degrees as extremely complementary, which is why my core class that I'm wrapping up, I mentioned this week, is a blended cohort class. Everybody that's taking the MCDM and the MCCN starts the program in the fall of the academic year, taking the same core class, because we recognize how important it is for all of our students to understand both of the degrees and also represent the way in which those degrees speak to their professional condition. So very much at the centerpiece of the way that we think about the ethos of the program. When we talk to our students and our alumni about what aspects of the program really stick out to them, there are two that we really want to highlight today. One is the strength of our community, and that community is one that is comprised of students and alumni, of course, but certainly includes the faculty and staff, some of whom you're seeing today on this call, but also the other affiliate instructors that we draw from the broader professional community that teach our classes, as well as guest speakers and various institutions that we bring into the program specifically to create a very holistic experience for our graduate students. We know that that community, defined broadly, is a trademark of our program. We are not simply a professional program that people parachute into, take a class once or twice a week, and then go back to their day-to-day lives. It's a program that people very much want to envelop themselves in, and so we design it with that in mind. The classroom experience is central to that, but we know that the classroom is one that is beyond the four walls, and certainly in this era of COVID, it's certainly beyond four walls. But the community is absolutely a highlight of CommLead. Now, the curriculum is the second thing that the students and alumni mention in terms of being a real selling point of the program. And so I just wanted to quickly touch on a couple things that we feel distinguish CommLead when it comes to our curriculum. The first is that it's a curriculum that is constantly being updated, reviewed, amended, because we know how quickly the field is changing. So on the one hand, we have faculty that have taught for us for decades. There's a wonderful consistency in institutional memory, but the complement to that is that it's a curriculum that's very dynamic and intentionally very relevant to any of our students that are entering the program, to make sure that the courses that are on offer for them really position them to be incredibly competitive when it comes to the job market in Seattle and beyond. There are 8 specializations in our curriculum. They're all outlined on the website, but I'll just mention them here. They include content strategy and user experience, marketing and analytics, storytelling, ethics and law, emergent technologies and trends, and communication and culture. So all of our class offerings across the 2 degrees fall in one of those 8 specializations. And we created those specialization categories really for students to help navigate the program, and then to also translate what the program has provided to them in terms of skill sets when they go and promote themselves out in the broader professional world. So for instance, you could say, I am pursuing a master's of communication and digital media with a specialization in storytelling and content strategy and user experience. So it's a way for you to present the work that you're doing in a way that is translatable to the institutions that you seek to join as part of your own professional development. The specializations are not a requirement. They are simply, think of them as a way for us to organize and make clear the various offerings that we have. There are a couple different classes, I absolutely encourage you to go and take a look at the actual page on our website, where you can look at a whole year's worth of classes across the 2 degrees. There'd be far too many to mention here. We have 19 classes, for instance, running this fall alone. But 3 that I wanted to just highlight because of the kind of breadth that I think it speaks to in the program is we have a new class this fall offered in multicultural marketing. And this is a class that has been one that we've heard from students they were eager to see join our curricular offerings. It's being taught by a marketing professional with years and years of experience, who actually is she considers her culture to be of 3 culture. Her identity is tricultural. And so she brings that tricultural background to the way that she teaches about marketing, and has really brought a global perspective in terms of, when you think about traditional but also successful marketing campaigns today in our globalized environment, making sure that you have a strong multicultural lens is paramount to the success of those marketing campaigns. And so this is a really exciting new offering within our curriculum. We have also got a returning class that's been a perennial favorite coming up in winter quarter called The Psychology of User Experience. And this is taught by, he's a professional who has a background in clinical psychology, but has for years worked at Microsoft. And within the context of his work at Microsoft, he's looking at the way in which psychology influences the design of technology and the way that humans use it. So it's a class that really allows our students to get insights into how our brains influence the way we use technology, and therefore how we should design technology to be best used by individuals. So that's a class that's always, as I said, a favorite coming up in the winter. And then finally, another new class that I wanted to mention is Communicating Trust and Credibility for Emerging Technologies. And this is a class that, for instance, would fall in the specialization around emergent technologies and trends. And this class allows students to really immerse themselves in some of the more contemporary conversations that are happening around everything from augmented reality, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, issues of privacy, issues of the Internet of Things, and work with the instructor on imagining what is the relevance of understanding these emerging technologies when it comes to becoming a successful professional communicator, regardless of what sector you plan to pursue, what kind of work you plan to pursue. This is a class that really helps students understand the near and the more long-term horizon. It has a futurist approach to it to help our students be as cutting edge as possible when it comes to anticipating those trends and being able to speak authoritatively about them. So those are three little teasers in terms of classes that we offer, that there's a whole range to explore on the website. And so at this point, I will turn it back to Liao to talk a little bit beyond the curricular experience, beyond the classroom. As I mentioned, we're a holistic oriented program. And so then we'll move on to Liao, and then Heather will bring us home before we start answering some questions. So Liao, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Anita, for sharing the curriculum and the program introduction. And also welcome our new prospective students like Hannah, Kirsten, and also Ali. Welcome to join us. So now I would talk briefly about the activities that we have beyond the classroom. I would say the other aspect of our professional program that our students and our alumni find very valuable are, number one, our flourishing community, and number two, all the opportunities that we have for skill building and making connections through the events. So the events such as we have crit panels, alumni fellow workshops, networking events like First Fridays at different companies. So first, when I say the flourishing community, I mean like we have more than 600 alumni and faculty. They're working across different global organizations. And this alumni network is growing every year. So here I can highlight two recent graduates, because I know that Vanny, she asked the question previously, like, where are your alumni work at? So one example is Yvonne Xiao, and she is originally from China, and she graduated from MC in Community and Networks program this year. And recently she got a full-time job at Microsoft as a UX content designer. And also for prospective students, if you go to our website, go to our alumni fellow page, you will see that Yvonne also served as an alumni fellow for our program. Another example is Juan Cho Misa from cohort 18, and he is from the MC Master of Communication in Digital Media program. And he recently accepted a job offer at Facebook as a content designer. So these are just two examples. We also have many other alumni that work at Amazon, Tableau, Google, and some PR agencies like C+C, Adelman, and Weber Shandwick. So there are just different examples. And I want to say, like, once you get into our program to help you achieve your career goal, we provide many opportunities for our company for our community to connect. So one thing is our monthly career events that we hold called First Friday. And every month for the First Friday, we typically pick up a company that we collaborate with them, and our students go to visit that company, learn about their organization culture, and interact with their recruiters and leadership team. And during the COVID, even during the COVID time, like we're still hosting this First Friday online, so you can still connect with these recruiters. So in the past, our students got to visit and connect with professionals from We Communications, Microsoft, Amazon. In this October, it was held with Simplicity Consulting, and for November, we hosted with Weber Shandwick. And every month we have a specific theme. So the next one, First Friday in January, and will feature a couple of startups and small business companies. And it's a tradition that we invite all our prospective students to join us at this January's First Friday. So if this is something you're interested in, feel free to join us. This is a great opportunity for you to connect with the founders and representatives from these startups, but also it's a great opportunity for our prospective students to connect with current students and alumni from our program. So after the info session today, I will send you a follow-up email with the registration link of our First Friday, so you're welcome to join us. Another question that our students ask a lot is, if I join your program, can I get some work opportunities? Well, either part-time or full-time, and the answer is definitely yes. So we have partner programs where we collaborate with organizations across different sectors, and our students could apply their classroom skills into the real world. Another example is like after the breakout of COVID-19, we create a student consultancy team. They help nonprofits and small business navigate the challenge of communicating in the face of this pandemic. We also provide some part-time opportunities like hourly paid students positions, like Kathy, like she is our student outreach coordinator, and she worked 20 hours for our program and gets hourly paid. So I think all of these are opportunities that we have in our program, and I send out jobs email every Monday, and these opportunities will be included in that jobs email, and also we'll share a bunch of full-time jobs that you can apply to. And we always make sure that we have a connection from that company when we share the opportunities. So we're not just throw you into the job market, but make you to make some connections first. So these are the opportunities that we have. And now let's move on to talk about the program specifics, and I will hand it over to Heather.
All right, thanks, Liao. And I'm sorry, I've been frantically responding to all of your emails for those of you that got the wrong link, trying to send you the correct link. So I think Kiati has sent out the correct link to the full list now, so I can move away from that and move back to speaking with you that are here. So I want to give you a couple of highlights of just the logistics of the benefits of the degree for students, as well as the application process. So a couple of things that are important to note, especially for international students, is that both of our degrees, the MCDM and the MCCN, are designated as STEM degrees. And what this means for international students is that currently, based on the regulations, you can get 3 years of OPT or work authorization after you graduate. So that's a great advantage of pursuing these degrees. Instead of just getting the normal 1 year, you can actually work for 3 years with that STEM designation. Another thing is that our program is fee-based. And what that means is that all students pay the same tuition. So we don't have resident or non-resident tuition rates. There aren't one group of students that pays more than another. Everybody pays the same resident level of tuition. So that's another great advantage, both for international students and for out-of-state students who are paying the same as people in Seattle. Full-time students tend to finish the degree in 5 quarters. So if you're applying for autumn 2021, you would graduate in autumn 2022 or winter 2023, depending on if you take summer off, if you're planning to be a full-time student. And then part-time students tend to graduate in 2.5 to 3 years. It's basically 9 classes, so 9 quarters would take a little over 2 years to get through, but you have up to 6 years. So that's another advantage of the program for domestic students is that you can complete it part-time, you can work while you're going to school. About half of the students in the program do work full-time and pursue the degree part-time. And you can also take quarters off. So we have some students who will attend fall quarter, take winter off, come back for spring, take summer off, and go through the program in that way to make it a balance with their full-time jobs and family responsibilities. The classes do all meet in the evenings and on weekends. So to allow for people working during the daytime, classes will typically meet on a Monday through Thursday, one of those nights from 6 to 9:50, or on the weekend on a Saturday or Sunday from 9 to 5 every other week. So those meet twice as long, but half as often. And that's to build around people working during the day. Now, if you're a full-time student, that gives you your weekdays free to pursue internships. As Liao was talking about the various opportunities for working during the program. So it gives you that option as well. On the financial side, Liao mentioned some of the student part-time jobs that are available on campus and partner program scholarships. Both of our degrees are eligible for federal financial aid, so a lot of students use that FAFSA and fill that out. A good note for all of you here that are looking at applying is that January 15th is UW's priority deadline for the FAFSA, so be sure to submit that by January 15th if you're looking to get financial aid for the program. And then our programs are also GI Bill benefits eligible, so we have a lot of veterans that have gone through the program using that benefit to pay for the degree. Now for the logistics on the application, February 1st is our priority deadline for guaranteed consideration, so be sure to apply by then if you're considering the program right now. And there's no advantage to submitting early. So we recommend you wait until January to submit your application. Take your time to make sure all of your materials are as up to date as possible. Your resume is up to date. If you get a new job or some new award or responsibility, review doesn't begin until after that deadline. So be sure to take your time and get that application as stellar as you can before submitting it. The one thing I do recommend doing early, though, is to designate your recommenders. You have 3 recommendations required, and you'll list their email address in the application, and then they get an automated email to complete that recommendation by February 1st. So it's good to designate them at least 2 weeks in advance of the deadline so that they have time to complete that by February 1st. Also, if you're someone who's required to submit test scores, so TOEFL scores, to meet the English proficiency requirement, you also want to be sure to order those at least 2 weeks before the deadline so that they can arrive on time. So that is my quick overview of the logistics on the program. And now I think we'll move into the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Heather. And thank you everyone for being here. And also apologies once again for the Zoom link mix-up. I'm not sure what happened. But now that everyone's here, I feel like what we can go ahead with is answering the questions people might have. I think the couple of questions we had, Anita has already addressed them in the chat. So if anyone has any more questions or anything they want to kind of know more about, please feel free to go ahead and ask us either in the chat, or you can just unmute yourselves, and if you want, put your video on and just ask us the questions you might have.
I have a question. Hi, this is Kristen. I was wondering, for the letters of recommendation, I know obviously when you want to give your best people that are gonna, recommend you the best way they can. But if you're coming from like a different type of background, does that kind of play into how you guys view the application? Or how do you, I guess, I don't want to say judge, but how do you kind of like go off of like the recommendations for the letters and things like that, if that makes sense?
Yes, thank you, Kristen. Anita, would you like to take that?
Sure. Kristen, thanks for asking. First, I want to use your question as a chance to talk just generally about the application and all the various components, and to say that we look at it all. And so thank you for asking specifically about the recommendations, but you've given me a good opportunity just to say that we intentionally designed the application to have a number of different areas that speak to who you are, both in writing, your own writing by others about you, the video component, the resume, the transcript. So each single part of the application is given due consideration. And when it comes to the letters of reference, what I would say is it's always nice to have a range of individuals who can speak to the success that you might have in a professional graduate school environment. And that doesn't necessarily mean that these need to be exclusively academic recommendations. People will often do a combination of a faculty member that they've had in the past that can speak to perhaps some specific classroom talents or abilities, but it's also an opportunity for somebody that's known you professionally to speak to your promise in the particular field that you're pursuing. We're looking, I mean, it's important to us at ComLead that we are attracting curious, collaborative, just people that are excited about the work that they are doing and that are a really good fit for our program. So that we also ask that when you reach out to your referees, it's important for you to share with them why ComLead for you, so that they can also speak to that. It's not simply a recommendation about how they know you. We really like it when recommendations link what they know about you to what you have told them about why the program is a good fit. Any kind of additional depth that recommendation can provide in that way is very helpful for us. We want the match to be a good one, and that's as much for you as it is for us. You don't want to be in a graduate program that doesn't serve the ambition that you have, and we want to make sure that what we're offering is a good dovetailing with your interests. So I hope that's helpful in thinking about who the recommenders might be.
Yes, thank you so much for answering.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Anita and Kristen. Rosie, would you like to ask the question, or do you want me to go ahead?
You can go ahead. My Zoom is cutting in and out, so I'm worried I'll drop off.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you for asking the question. Heather, I think this question you'd be the best one to answer. It's about what is the percentage of applicants who apply versus admitted, and how has this number changed over the last few years?
Yes, since I process those applications, Kathy's sending this over to me, and it has become a bigger job every year. So I've been with the program for 10 years, and every single year our application numbers have gone up. So each year has been a record year as we go through the last 10 years. And the size of the cohort has been fairly static for the last 3 years or so, at about 85 to 90 students has been our goal. That ended up being a little larger this year because we had much more interest than we expected during a pandemic, which was awesome, that so many people were still excited to come to grad school. So this year's cohort is actually 106 students. But we're usually aiming for that 85 to 95 right in there as kind of the sweet spot of the number of students that are coming into the program. As far as application numbers, this year we got just over 400 for autumn 2020. The year before it was around 370 or so. And again, it's gone up every year. So we'll see what happens this year, but probably around that 400, maybe as much as 450. We always have a little wager going among the group on how many we'll get every year, and then aiming for about 90 students in the cohort.
Thank you. Also, I think Hannah complimented the pillow you have back there while we wait for more questions. Just wanted to draw your attention to that.
Yes, my gift from my mother that is actually becoming useful with my Zoom background.
And Vanny asked a question earlier, like, would you be able to connect me with some recent international graduates who would be willing to share their experience in the program and their professional journey thereafter? Actually, we do have our student ambassador to join us today, Isabel, and she is our international student ambassador. And I will also add a link here. Our student ambassador will hold the student-led Q&A session in December and also in January. And you're welcome to sign up for the student-led Q&A session. Isabel, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Hi, everyone. So my journey, also I started with ComLead last September, and then I'm actually gonna graduate this December. I feel like my journey with ComLead has been amazing because since I started this program, I really got a chance to explore in different areas that I want to look for a job in the long term. So there are classes, like diverse classes you can choose from, like user experience, user research center, psychology, copywriting, marketing, and communications for advocacy. I'm also taking a class called Communicating with Data. And then I felt like ComLead has really offered me very hands-on knowledge, and then helped me to build my portfolio, because back home, I'm from Taiwan, we don't really have our own portfolio, but I think it's very important here in the United States. And another thing I really like about ComLead is networking. So now I'm job hunting, so I can totally feel like, oh, ComLead's networking is strong. So yeah, I can't wait for you guys to join ComLead sometime soon.
Thank you, Isabel. I think Hannah wants to go next and ask a question, and then we can move on to Kristen's other question.
All right. Hello. Hi, this is Hannah. I hope this is coming through all right.
Yes.
Great. So I am curious about, you mentioned that there is a version of going through this program that is essentially part-time student, that there are a lot of people that will work and do other things while going through this program. I guess I'm curious if anyone can speak to what that is like. I mean, how doable that is, if it is something that is, best to try and avoid if possible because of the amount of workload, or just what that kind of pairing of activities can look like.
Sure. So even though I'm an international student taking the program full-time, I can speak a little bit to what you just asked, because I am technically working alongside taking the program. So what I'm basically doing is working part-time and doing the program full-time. And we have like a different range of combinations of students who either do both things part-time, or some who do both full-time, and some who usually do the program part-time and work full-time. So there's all kinds of combinations and people who kind of do the program alongside their professional careers. And I feel like in all of those cases, the only way they're able to actually do it is because it's possible. So depending on what, how quickly you want to go through the program, that is one thing you can pick to kind of decide what you want to do. And so there's also people who want to complete the program as quickly as possible and also continue working full time. So I feel like if that is your aim with the program, it is still doable. But based on my conversations with people who've done that and who've taken other options, I feel like if you have the option, you'd rather do one thing part-time, because like Leah mentioned earlier, one of the biggest benefits of doing this program is the networking and the events and the workshops and a whole range of things we get to do outside of the classroom. So if you tend to do both things full-time, you sometimes have to miss out on that aspect of the program. So it's just up to you on what you want to weigh more or weigh less in your journey with ComLead.
And Hannah, I'll also weigh in and say that we have students that also choose to go full-time one quarter and then part-time another quarter. There's a lot of flexibility there, especially for working professionals that might have a certain seasonality to their work, and you have a fourth quarter that's really busy, and that's a good chance to take fewer credits. And then you have perhaps a slower period in the spring where you want to increase the number of credits you take. Maybe there are two classes that really appeal to you. So just know that there's a tremendous amount of flexibility. Everything Khyati said is true. We have every possible kind of combination of student when it comes to what works best for your schedule. But if you can think it, someone's done it when it comes to moving through the program. I tend to be a fan of taking one's time, if at all possible, because the curriculum's always changing, get to meet more cohorts, but there are perfectly valid reasons for being expeditious with one's degree as well. And we've had students that we've worked very closely with them, Heather can speak to this, to make sure that they can finish in the time that they need to. Maybe they're relocating, maybe they're having a child, maybe they're shifting jobs. So we pride ourselves in being adaptable for students to be able to adapt their schedule based on what they need.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Anita, there was another question kind of related to what you were just talking about from Rosie about how often does the curriculum change or the course offerings change depending on how long someone is in the program?
Yeah, and I think what I think I'm going to do, Katya, is I'm going to bundle that with the virtual learning question, which is an excellent one and very apropos. So I'll start by saying, before I get to the steps that ComLead took to respond to the global pandemic, which was really part of a larger University of Washington effort. To be very clear, we work side by side with the chair in our department, with the College of Arts and Sciences. So this is a university-wide moment when it came to pivoting in the face of COVID, but I can speak very specifically to what ComLead has done with our faculty, because all departments were asked to adapt, and ComLead was in a particularly, I think, advantageous position to be responsive. So I'll speak to that in a minute, but to the question around the evolution of the curriculum, I think the way I would describe it is that in the 10 years, Heather and I have been part of the program for about the same amount of time, a decade, and over those 10 years, there are some classes that have appeared every single year of that decade. Our law and ethics class that Craig Baker has taught. Craig Baker has been teaching for the program for 19 years, pretty much since its inception. And while he adapts his class every single year to the kinds of cases that he's encountering as an attorney in the digital law space, that's a consistent class that has been one that's been on offer ever since the first year of the program, after the first full year of the academic year of the program. And so there's a subset, I would say, of our faculty that have been teaching for the program for 10 years or more. Their classes aren't always the same every year. Craig has adapted his curriculum. He's offered a second law and ethics class that he's added to his first as the technology changed. But there are a number of faculty members whose offerings have been really central. Our foundational storytelling classes, when it comes to videography, have been taught by the same faculty member for over a decade. But then the flip side to that is that in any given year, because the majority of our faculty are working professionals, there is going to, for their own schedules alone, we are going to need to find replacements. People have promotions that take them out of that curricular game. People have life changes that take them out of that ability to offer a class. And so in any given year, we are looking to attract the best possible professionals in the field who have a keen desire to share their expertise in a rigorous professional classroom environment. And we know that that's not everybody, because to teach on top of a high-powered job requires a certain amount of commitment on their part, a certain commitment to their own self-growth as an instructor. And that's something that we at ComLead take very seriously. We don't just hire professionals and then toss them into the deep end of the curricular experience. We work very closely with them when it comes to their syllabus design. We do peer reviews and visits to their classrooms. We pay close attention to the assessments that happen annually around a class. And so a 2 to 3 year window, I think if you go to our website, you can look at classes that have been offered over the last 2.5 years and really see that you'll have these consistencies around our storytelling offerings, around UX, around leadership and communication, ethnography, marketing. But every single year, you're going to have, I'd be hard pressed to put exactly a percentage on it, but I'm going to say that they're going to be between 3 and 5 new faculty members, most likely a year, offering either a version of an existing class. We've got a new faculty member from REI offering a class that's been in our books in the past on digital marketing, but hasn't been offered for 2 years. But then we've also got people like Hannah Park, who's offering this multicultural marketing class I mentioned earlier. That's a new offering in the curriculum. So I think that the best way to describe it is it's not good. It's not utterly new every single year. There's enough consistency in terms of what we feel are core competencies that our students need to graduate, but we always are going to have new offerings every single year that make it a really dynamic curriculum. And to that end, in terms of the training that we provide to our instructors, that's really where the story starts when it comes to pivoting to COVID. We moved our quarterly faculty meetings to weekly. We hired someone specifically to design a 10-week training for all of our faculty on how to successfully migrate their classes, which had been place-based classes very much by design, into the digital space. We took nothing for granted, and we also recognized that our faculty needed support. We invested in their home offices, we invested in their technologies, we invested in their, their light rings, everything possible to make sure that the ability for them to offer the class successfully encountered no hiccups when it came to tech, and encountered no hiccups when it came to the redesign. And that support has been consistent throughout the year, starting in spring when all classes were moved online. And I'm very happy to say, and I'm not saying this to boast, but when we interviewed and got testimonials from students in spring quarter, which was very much the first pivot that faculty had to make within a matter of weeks to put their classes online, students were incredibly supportive of the experience that they'd had inside the Zoom classroom. In the case of the University of Washington, Zoom is our platform, and were able to identify certain affordances that the Zoom room provided when it came to breakout groups, when it came to fidelity of sound, when it came to being able to interact in a more distributed space for them, that there wasn't a commute to campus. It was tremendous to see that the value of their time in the classroom was not diminished by the fact that it was online. And our faculty have been equally inventive in the way that they have taken the affordances of the Zoom room and highlighted them in order to mitigate what we know we are all missing, because I won't mince words. We are missing being together. We are a place-based graduate program. We are not an online program. And so we know that that cohort 20 and cohort 19 want to be back in the classroom. We do too, but the classroom can exist online. And I am here to prove that because I teach 106 students every Thursday, and it's my favorite night of the week. And they are building a community. Cohort 20 has built a community in the Zoom room with that many people. So I appreciate the question. It's a really good one. We are looking forward to getting back into the classroom, but of course we can't, no one has a crystal ball to be able to say when that is. But to me, ComLead was in an enviable position to pivot to the online space because of the temperament of our students and the expertise of our faculty and their familiarity with tech broadly.
Thank you so much, Anita. I know we talked about this earlier, but I feel like not a lot of people had joined then. If you could quickly just probably in a couple of sentences talk about the distinction between MCDM and MCCN. That was a question earlier.
Oh. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I saw that came up, and I appreciate that question. I'll start with the history. The MCDM was our inaugural degree. It started 20 years ago, and I would say that part of the way it would be good to describe the distinction between these two degrees, which have tremendous amounts of overlap. They are both for professional communicators. They both attract individuals who recognize and respect the importance of the digital ecosystem where we swim. But the addition of the Master of Communication and Communities and Networks in 2013, I believe was in part motivated by the students that Heather was encountering who were interested in a professional communications degree, but didn't want digital media to be the focus. They were more interested in some of the interpersonal dimensions that are part of professional communication that certainly respect and understand and are fluent in the digital space, but are a little bit more that have an emphasis that's a bit more on the constituents, the consumers, the people that you're communicating with, as opposed to the platforms that you are using to communicate with those people. So you're going to see more of the technical UX classes, more of the production-oriented classes where you roll up your sleeves and actually create videos, create podcasts. Those are going to happen a little bit more in the MCDM, where the MCCN is going to ask those questions around, once you have that platform, once you have that content, how do you make sure that the eyes that you want to be on that content are connected? I think that that's one way to look at the distinction. My final thought on that, if you're thinking between those two degrees, which one should I apply for? It goes back to the class page on our website. I would spend a good amount of time looking at 4 quarters worth of classes from a summer all the way to the following spring. And I would actually make a list of every class that you really feel drawn to and see where they fall in the curriculum. We have a number of track neutral classes, which we know appeal to both of our degree seekers, but I think that the classes tend to be a nice litmus test for which degree is most aligned with your interests.
And also to quickly add to that, we also have the chance to take up to some credits of our entire credit load in the other track. So we can take 10 out of 45 and I've completed my 10 credits, even though I'm from MCDM, I've taken 10 in MCCN already. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kati. That's very true. We wanted to make sure that there was that ability for people to take a class or two in the alternative track.
Yeah. If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask the question or send them in the chat and we can address them.
Don't be shy.
There is another question from Vanny. So she mentioned that she came from a very diverse background with an undergraduate in English, and her work experience is not very relevant with communication or digital marketing. So she's wondering if this could be an issue while applying for the program. I believe we have many other applicants, they don't have communication background for their undergraduate. So probably a question for Anita or Heather.
I can jump in if Anita wants a voice break on that. We have no requirement as far as your work experience or your academic background. So we have students in the program. We've had people with everything from a major in textiles to music to engineering, foreign languages, all different backgrounds. And everywhere from students that are, 10, 20-year industry veterans who are coming back to school to people coming fresh out of their bachelor's degree who haven't even done an internship at this point. So we're really open to all levels and backgrounds, because what the program is really focused on when looking at those admissions applications is not what you've done, but what you want to do and how this degree is going to help you with that. So what is the career direction that you're wanting to go into at this point? What are your ambitions? What are your passions that drive you to apply to this degree? And how do you feel this specific degree is going to help you reach those goals? So that is really the focus of what we're looking at in reviewing applicants, and not so much what you've done in the past. So yeah, don't worry about that. If you don't have the background, just make your case to us as far as what you're wanting to do and why this degree will help you do that. I'll also throw in there, so an afterthought is that we do have some students concerned about not having specific skills that might be helpful in the communication field. And so we do have our alumni fellows offer a number of workshops each year for people wanting to dig in more and might not have a background in, say, video production or different topics that are more hard skills based that might not be covered in a theoretical class, but allow people to get those kind of background skills that they want if they are coming from a different field. So we do have those workshops and supports built in for people that want to add that on, but there's no expectation that coming into the program, you already have a communication background or skills in those areas.
Thank you, Heather. And yeah, we do have not just the alumni fellow, but like a whole range of workshops, not just like offered specifically, but also like we have a multimedia tutor who kind of helps us take workshops or even one-on-one sessions about developing certain skills. And then there's also the whole UW workshop sessions at the libraries that do the same thing. So yeah. There's one more question about the acceptance decisions, Heather.
Oh, yeah. So when do you find out if you got in? So our admissions review process is a collective process. So there's a pool, there's one meeting at the end that where we decide who are the students that are going to be admitted. So that does all come out at the same time. For that February 1st priority deadline, we send out admissions, denials, and waiting list notifications all at the same time. Typically that's mid-March. It can vary based on how many applications we get and how long it takes to get through all of those. But yeah, so everyone finds out at the same time on that. And I see there's another question here about specific elements of the application, about what we're looking for in the video and the personal statement. And one way I like to describe this to students is think of your resume, your personal statement, and your video as 3 legs of a stool that are giving us a larger picture of who you are. So you don't want to repeat any information between those, because as Anita said, the committee is reviewing all aspects of the application. So you don't want to waste any space or time repeating information that they can find somewhere else. Your resume tells us what you've done. So that's kind of the past, like where you've been, what kind of experiences you've had. Your personal statement is telling us what are your career goals now and how will this degree help you meet those. And then your video is an opportunity for us to get to know you on more of a personal level. So what are your passions that drive you to this field? You get to tell us a story from your life. And there have been so many, different examples of how students have approached that. We've had people cooking and, filming themselves cooking a meal that means something to them and their family, and the story that they find through food and through sharing that with others. We've had people talk about their travels with items from their closet that they picked up in different countries, and the importance of cultural sharing and how that brought them into communication work. So it's really open, and think of that video as that third element where we've already heard about your past in the resume, we've heard about your career goals in the personal statement. Now we get to know, who are you and what drives you.
Thank you, Heather. I think the next question is for Anita.
Yeah, Kayla, thanks for asking about the independent study or independent research. The short answer is there's a lot of flexibility, and many students at CommLead choose to pursue an independent study. An independent study is a chance for you to work intentionally with a faculty member on an area that is of keen interest to you. It's very much one that is best suited for the self-motivated student, because the faculty member is there as a resource and to bounce ideas off of. But if you think of it this way, you are designing a syllabus for yourself. You are designing this class for yourself. You are asked to outline a course of study. It is approved by the associate director and by Heather, and the faculty member obviously is a person you collaborate first and foremost with it. But once that quarter starts, those weeks are yours to manage, and the faculty member is there for you, but you're not meeting with them regularly on a week by week basis the way you would with a traditional class. The expectation is that you will keep yourself to deadline, you will deliver what you said you will deliver that's outlined in your course of study. And it really is a tremendous chance for students to develop an even deeper rapport with a faculty member and a deeper level of expertise on a particular topic. For the truly ambitious, there's something also called a CommLead 600, which is the highest possible numerical level to a class, which is the equivalent of a master's level thesis. And that requires 2 faculty members, not just one, and also requires a public presentation of your thesis, a defense of sorts. And that is something that some of our students very much want to pursue. Maybe they're considering doctoral work, and this is a way for them to dip their toe in the water, or they appreciate the level of and the expectation of delivery of a CommLead 600. But for the majority of our students, an independent study is more than sufficient for that kind of work, and is very available to them. And I believe, Heather can correct me if I'm wrong, that you can take up to 10 credits of an independent study towards your degree.
Thank you so much. I just want to be mindful of everyone's time here. And despite the hiccups we had earlier, like Heather mentioned just now in the chat, we will be posting this session as quickly as possible on that page that she shared there. So please feel free to go back and review that. And there's also more information about other upcoming info sessions. One is again going to be staff-led, similar to this one. And then there's 2 more that's going to be student-led, which will be led by the student ambassadors like Isabel and I. So if you're interested in talking more to students as well as staff, please feel free to go register for those sessions as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And thank you, everyone from the CommLead team for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jyoti.
you.
Thanks, Leah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Heather.
Daddy,
Thanks,
for
Isabel.
this.
Thanks for coming.